Devar Top, Ted Zion Amud Aleph, 16 lines from the top, Ela Maravina. So he has to explain the Mishnah according to his own explanation because the Mishnah by itself did not make any sense. What's Mu'ad, what's Tam, etc. Mishnah is missing words, and this is my explanation of the Mishnah. There are 5 types of Tam. If they were worn up to 3 times, they all could become Mu'ad. Shen and Regel are always considered Mu'ad. And these 5 types of Keren that we mentioned earlier, these are the things that become Mu'ad in the Torah. And the machloket between Rabbi Tafon and Rabbanan is the case of the ox that's damaging in the damagee's property. Right? And the Mishnah continues that there are certain animals that are always mu'ad, no matter what. Wolf, lion, bear, bardalas, leopard, and snake. Tana Mahachi, free 6 few lines because it's the exact same words. We have a Braita that has an identical interpretation as Ravina. Okay, beautiful proof according to Ravina because he has an exact Braita word for word. There are some who learn this halacha from Ravina via a question and answer format. Mishnah says, there are 5 times 5 muad. There's no more. But there are also animals that are also muad. The answer over there, Ravina says, the reason is because you have to re-explain the Mishnah, same exact thing. Okay, next part of the Mishnah said an animal is not mu'ad. They do certain things, goring, sitting, squatting, and stuff, right? Below the boat, squatting. The only time it's unusual if it's a large jug that it's squatted on. But small jugs, it's normal for it to squat in them. And therefore, if it's considered mu'ad. Let me say that's being a proof according to Rabbi Elazar from a different Mishnah. Animals normally walk through the street and damage and stuff. And it could crush people, animals, or kelim. So we see over here, it's talking about crushing utensils. So we say no, so we're trying to bring a proof. So, maybe that Mishnah is one different case. Maybe it's talking about crushing it like by the side, like pressing against it, not squatting on it. Different version of this halakha is don't only say this is talking about large jugs is abnormal, and small jugs is normal. Rather, it's not normal at all for it to squat on jugs. But it is abnormal. Always chatzin nezek. Metzve. We say, one second, now we're bringing this Mishnah as a question. The right it says it's normal for it to crush stuff. That's not talking about squatting, that's talking about pressing against it. Some people learn this via a question and answer format. The Mishnah said, animals not muad to squat. But the Braita says, but we have a different animal Braita that says that the animal does crush stuff. In the Mishnah, it's talking about large jugs, it's unusual to squat on, but small jugs, it is normal for it to squat on. Okay, the list of animals included a bardalas. Ze'eb, Ari, right? Leopard, bear, and bardalas. My bardalas was a bardalas. Amar nafreza. A nafreza. You know what nafreza is? Neither do I, neither does the Gemara. Gemara says, my nafreza, what's a nafreza? Mar Yosef, apa. It's an apa. What's an apa? Good question. Whether or not it's a hyena, a viper, or a weasel of some sort. Okay. Metive. Rabbi Meir Omer, af hatzavoa. The tzavoa is also considered muad. Rabbi Omer, af hanachash, also nachash. Amar Yosef, tzavoa zu apa. So we see tzavoa is an apa. So why would our Gemara say that a bardalas is an apa? Right? Good question. The Gemara says lakasha. Kam bet tzavoa zachash. In our Braita, it's about a male tzavoa. And that's what it's called. Kam b'savua nekiva. Our Mishnah, a bardalas is a female tzavoa. Okay. The Tanya Braita says, Tzavua zachar la'achar sheva shanim is very interesting. Tzavua zachar la'achar sheva shanim na'aseh atlaf. A male tzavua after 7 years becomes a bat. Atlaf achar sheva shanim na'aseh arpad. A bat after 7 years becomes an arpad, which is a different type of bat. Arpad la'achar sheva shanim na'aseh kimush. An arpad after 7 years becomes a type of thorn. Kimush la'achar sheva shanim na'aseh hoach. That type of thorn becomes a different type of thorn after 7 years. Hoach la'achar sheva shanim na'aseh shindalad. After 7 years, that type of thorn becomes a shindalad. That that escalated quickly. You went from bat to shindalad. Another transformation. The spine of a person who passes away after 7 years becomes a snake. The Rambam says, this only applies if the guy did not bow down by mudim. The snake is a very unappreciative animal. Doesn't care what you did for it, it'll attack you a second later. So a person does not bow down by mudim all the way and exposes his spine. He's showing by the bracha mudim, he's saying thank you. He's not showing God thanks. His spine becomes a snake. Amar Mor, make sure you bow down. Amar Mor, Rabbi Meir says, Afa tzavot, the tzavot also muad. Rabbi Elazar Omer, Afa nachash, the snake also muad. Banan Tanan, Rabbi Elazar Omer, Bizman shehen b'nei tarbut. If the animals are domesticated, in a muadim, banachash muad, but the snake's always muad. Right, so we see only the snake is a muad always, and not the tzavua. The Gemara says tani nachash. Yes, it means only nachash, not gam nachash. Okay, Amar Shmuel. In case of a lion that attacked an animal in the public, daras ve'achal patur. If it pounced and ate on it immediately, patur. Taraf ve'achal chayav. But if it tore it apart and then ate it, it's chayav. Why? Daras ve'achal patur. If it pounced on it and ate it, given the urchel limidra, since it's normal for it to pounce and eat it, havelik kimosha achla perot ve'rakot. It's the equivalent of eating fruits and vegetables in the Reshut Harabim. What's the difference? Because we said earlier, the havel Hashem Reshut Harabim upatur. Shen and Reshut Harabim is patur. Not its fault. The animal, you should not leave your grapes in the middle of the street. So it's over here. The animal's in the middle of the street hanging out, and then my lion attacked it. It's not my problem. Taraf lav urcheh. But if it tore it and ate it, it's not normal, and therefore you're chayav in public for chatzin nezek. Okay. But you mean to say that tearing the animal apart is not normal? But the pasuk says, the lion tears its prey for its baby cubs. It says no, it only will tear it for the cubs, but not to eat it for itself. But it says it will choke prey for its wives, the lionesses. So we see it doesn't kill it. No, only for its lionesses, but it won't eat it for itself. It'll fill its caves with torn animals. So we see it does tear it apart. It'll do it for the cave, not in public. And it's also its layers will be filled with torn animals. So we see that Pasuka is basically showing us, or we're trying to say, that it's normal for it to do it, and we're answering it that no, bishvil me'onotav. Those locations it's normal for it to do it, but it's not normal for it to do it in public and eat it on the spot. Where it says, 1 second, the wild animal entered the yard of the damagee's property, and it tore it apart and ate it. Full damages, right? Seemingly even a lion. Where it says no, it's the case where the lion tore the animal apart for storage for future meal. The Gemara says right? That says that he ate it right away, not storage. The Gemara says it changed its mind and ate it right away instead of storing it. Gemara asks the question you're thinking. How do we know what the animal is thinking? You ask the lion what he's doing before he tore it apart. Gemara says, well, additionally, even if you're saying it is doing that, maybe in the case of Shmuel also in public where he made him chayav chatzin nezek, maybe that's the case also. Should be patur. Gemara says, Amar Rav Yitzchak Bar Nachmani, somewhere where it tore the animal, it's talking about two different cases. If it tore it and later and stored it for later, dragged it to its house, or it pounced on and ate it, that means chayav full damages, and therefore there's no contradiction. Ravina Marvina says, Shmuel say that when it tears it apart, it's public, you are chayav. The Ari Tarbut Tumar, a domesticated line. But according to the Bazar, who else it's not normal. That's the case. I feel that it's not chayav, so they should be chayav even if you pounced on it. Why is it patur? It's not Tumar Shmuel. It's going on the Raita. in the case where it tore it in domesticated line, and it's even according to the Bazar, who says it's not normal for it to do it, you are still chayav chatzi nezek. Sorry, you're not chayav. Even though you're patur. Now the Gemara's question is, if it's not normal, you should pay chatzi nezek. Gemara says no, the ayat chayav because it's muad, therefore pay 3 times. Gemara says my high the tani le gabe todat shen. Why is it that this halakha is under the subcategories, the Todah of Shen? If we're talking about Muad and Tam, this animal became Muad because it did it 3 times. Shen is always Muad. So why are we mentioning it over here? It's mentioned by Keren. Keren has the 3 half payments than the full payment. Mara says, Kasha, good question. New Mishnah. Ma ben Tam Lemar was doing Tam Muad. Before the owner of the animal pays half damages from the animal itself. The Muad pays full damages from top property levels. The Gemara says, "My aliyah, what's aliyah? We had this before. Your top choices properties." Additionally, it says, one second. What? Hizkiah was buried with his ma'alah, at the top of the descendants of David. The top of the farthest members. He was buried with David and Shmuel. Hizkiah was buried with David and Shmuel. Next pasuk about the burials. They buried King Asa in a special cave by the city of David, and they laid him down with perfumes and zinim. My besamim uznim, what's that? Zine, different types of perfumes. Both of them are as perfumes. Whoever smells these type of perfumes ends up wanting to do zinut. Okay. Nehemiah is complaining they're trying to trap him. They're digging a pit to trap him. They said that they suspected him of living with Zonah. They were accusing him. Obviously, he wasn't. He's a massive tzaddik. Rabbi Shmuel ben Achmei Amar, they suspected him of marrying of living with an Eshtish. Okay. It makes sense according to the opinion of Hose that they said they accused him of living with a Zonah. I don't know if that's what Pasuk says. Kishuha amuka Zonah. Same lashon of pit with Zonah and this Pasuk. Where did it say pit? If it's Eshet Ish, where do we see that the pasuk has referring to Eshet Ish is also regarding the bor? Same thing. It could be Eshet Ish, could also be type of zana if the person is not a good woman. Next question. Makes sense according to plain knows Eshet Ish. That's why Yirmiyahu complained. And you, Hashem, know that they always try to accuse me to kill me. They try to commit me, to condemn me to death penalty because they're accusing me of living with Eshet Ish. So therefore it makes sense. What does it mean? If it's only Zonah, which may not be Eshet Ish, then why is that considered condemning for death? The Gemara says, it's referring to the time where they didn't like what he said. He said that Yerushalayim was going to fall down and get destroyed. So they didn't like what he said. The officers of King Tzidkiah, the bad officers, threw him into a pit of cement. He ended up getting saved, but they tried to kill him. Derash Rabbi says, you will stumble before you, deal with them at the time of anger. What does that mean? He's saying, don't accept that tefillah. Why? Even when these Reshaim do tzedakah, make them give money to people who are not worthy of deserving the money, meaning who don't need the money, people who are not poor people, so they won't get reward for their mitzvah, right? These people knew that they were going to die for what they did to Yirmiyahu. They said, tzedakah tazimamavet. We'll give tzedakah and get saved. Yirmiyahu said to Hashem, send people who weren't really aniyim so that they won't get rewarded. Because if you give someone tzedakah without knowing that without them being an ani, you don't get mitzvah tzedakah unless you give it publicly. You didn't give one specific person. So he said, let this happen so they don't get the mitzvah, so they don't get saved. They honored King Chizkiah at his death. They established a yeshiva by his grave. They They disagreed how long it was. Chadamar Shosha, some say it was 3 days they had the yeshiva there. Chadamar Shiva, some says 7. V'amri la Shoshim, and some says 30. Right? Those 3 are special days in regarding to a person who's mourning. 3 days, 7 days, and 30 days. 3 days is the first. 3 days are most severe. 7 days is Shiva, and 30 is the Shoshim. Tamaran, the Chavod Asulo b'moto, they honored him in his death. Zeh Hizkiah Melech, referring to Hizkiah, Shiatzu l'fanav Shoshim v'shisha elef al zei katev. In front of him, 36,000 men went out with their torn shirts, mourners. Also, King Achav, who was the Rasha, they also did that. That's not a big honor if they did it by Achav. Rather, they put a Sefer Torah on his burial on the Aron. They said he fulfilled it. We also do it nowadays. What's the big deal for a Talmid Chacham? We say we take it up, but we don't put it on. Even nowadays, according to the opinion of the we do put it on the actual Aron. We don't say that pasuk of he fulfilled it. And one time walking along with him to ask him a question. We went to the bathroom. I was waiting for him outside. He didn't answer me right away. He washed his hands. He put on his tefillin back on, made a beracha. And then he told me, nowadays we even can say that sentence of he taught the Torah. And we put the Sefer Torah on the Aron. But nowadays we don't say he taught it. Back then they said he kept it and taught it. Right? It's a famous thing that back then there was the study of Torah is important. Right? So the Gemara says, 1 second, you just tell me that he taught it, but we know that learning Torah is better than teaching it. Because learning, studying it leads to doing more mitzvot. It changes you as a person. It's true. One is referring to learning Torah, one is referring to teaching Torah. Right? Which means that Hizkiah was known for forcing people to teach Torah. He would lock people in the midrash. Everybody, not just regular, not just lock people in the midrash and say whoever leaves dies. And they said they checked from one side to the other side of Eretz Yisrael, and people from the ages of 6 and up, boys and girls from the age of 6 and up, were completely fluent in Hilchot Tahara and Tumah, which is wild. And also some other things. He said something else also. What was it? It's famous one on Sanhedrin. I want to see if it says it over here. I'm sure it says it somewhere. Okay, next part. Praiseworthy are you who stays by the water and sends the ox and the donkeys. Whoever engages in Torah and Chesed, he'll inherit the inheritance of Yisachar and Yosef. Who's that? What does that mean? Praiseworthy are you who plant. The end Zriyah is referring to Tzedakah. Shneimar, Zor'el Tzedakah, V'kthru Tzedakah. Then Ma'im Torah, and Ma'im is referring to Torah. Shneimar, Havu Kotzumeh L'chol L'Ma'im. Right? Inherits the 2 inheritances of Yosef and Yisachar, which is what? Zochel L'Kila Yosef inherits the Kavod of Yosef. Techtiv Ben Purat Yosef, Banot Sa'ada Ale Shor. Yosef was charming, and the woman and people in Mitzrayim would all try to get a glimpse of him. They also inherit the wealth of Yisachar. Yisachar Hamor Garim. Ita Amri, people say it differently. Yosef said that enemies will fall from it, they fell before Yosef. They inherit the understanding of Yisachar. They had the understanding of the Zmanim and the moons and everything. They're able to know what to do for the holidays. Mabruk on Perek Rishon.